Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another royal news video. This isn't your normal sort of royal news video, however. This is a deep dive into the many things that Meghan has done, which could equate to her having what some say is sticky fingers. Now, it doesn't need to be anything particularly physical, like say, for example, a pair of Aquazzura shoes stolen from a photo shoot. I mean, that's just rumours, of course. But it can actually come down to things such as stealing someone's concept, their ideas, their design. And this is where it then goes more towards and into plagiarism. This is where you take something that someone else has created or has thought about creating, and then you pass it off as your own. Now, Meghan has done all of this multiple times, and it started when she was actually at a young age. If you go back to when Meghan was 11 years old, and you may or may not know this story, but I'll keep it short. Meghan was involved in a class project, and in that class project they all had to come up with an idea to write about something that they felt was important. And at the time they had just watched a TV advert that lots of people were complaining about, and it was a sexist washing up commercial. So the class all came together on this project, and then of course the rest you know. Meghan likes to change history to suit her narrative, and this was one of the first things that she did when she was trying to reinvent herself as an activist and a feminist. As we know, Meghan proudly promoted as part of her new reinvention of herself as a humanitarian, an activist and a feminist, and she gave a speech to the rapture of a standing applause, and it turned out that there was no standing applause. But Meghan gave a speech at UN Women, and she, in her speech, said, "It isn't enough to simply talk about equality, one must believe in it. And it isn't enough to simply believe in it, one must work at it." A near identical speech, or rather an extract from a speech, was by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she had spoken about peace. It isn't enough to talk about peace, one must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it, one must work at it. So, as you can see, near on identical. Then let's move on to another well-known bit of plagiarism that Meghan did, and this was where Meghan did her editorial for Vogue. When Meghan created the fantastic front cover called Forces for Change, she actually had to be talked out of putting her own face on the cover. This is her narcissism shining through, right? So instead she put a mirror so the reader could see, oh look, I'm a force for change, potentially, right? But this cover that she did, what a wonderful idea. Well, funnily enough, it had a twin, as it were. And this is called The Game Changers by authors Samantha Brett and Steph Adams. Meghan had featured on the cover of The Game Changers, and Meghan had actually worked on the concept with them. So Meghan decided, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna completely use that many years later. Whilst they were initially shocked, both authors did come out at the time and they said that they were flattered. But I think that's got more to do with the fact that Meghan had just married into the royal family. I can imagine that they weren't overly impressed with Meghan completely stealing the idea of their book. Then let's get into some more, I would say, more personal plagiarism that Meghan did. Prince George, Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte, when they go out and about with security, they have security names. And Prince George's security name was none other than Archie, the name that Harry and Meghan decided they were going to call their firstborn son. Then, of course, we've got Meghan and Harry's second child, Lily, or as a name that I refuse to call her by, Lilibet. This was the Queen's personal nickname. It's not even a real name. This was the one thing that Queen Elizabeth had that was her own. It was deeply personal. It was only used by her parents and her sister and Prince Philip. All of those that had been super close to her throughout her life. When Prince Philip died, she didn't want to hear that name anymore because whilst it was a beautiful name for her, everybody that had ever called it had died. Harry and Meghan took that name for their child. Now, some people believe that this was a sweet gesture. It was not. It was cruel, it was spiteful, and it was vindictive. If they had just called her Lily, that would have been a nice nod. It's beautiful, it's modern, and that's why I call her Lily myself. Meghan initially, when the backlash started, had said, oh, well, we want her to be known as Lily. But as we're beginning to see by all of the merchandise and everything that's coming out, and Meghan ramping up interest in the children, it's Princess Lilibet, which, as I said, it was done to be vindictive. It was a way to hurt the Queen, of which they definitely succeeded. Now, keeping in with the royal theme, does anybody remember Sussex Royal? Yes, well, Harry and Meghan, when they caused enough problems and Prince William decided to split the royal foundation when problems were beginning to come to light, well, they went with Sussex Royal. Sussex Royal Instagram was actually owned by a man called Kevin who lived in Sussex, and his account was named after his favourite football club. Well, not quite. They're Reading FC, but they are famously known as the Royals. So here you had the perfect Instagram account for him, Sussex Royal. His son messaged him one day and said, haha, your handle's changed. Harry and Meghan had taken it. He was then left with a slightly different version of his account, but it upset him greatly because, well, he wasn't asked. They just took what was his, and this seems to be very much in the theme with the levels of entitlement of Harry and Meghan. Now, speaking of Sussex Royal, do we remember when Megxit came about? Oh, it seems like it was only yesterday. The dramas that came from that, or mainly the list of demands. It turned out that Meghan had been secretly trademarking Sussex Royal behind the scenes. She had trademarked over 100 different items that she was going to make it profitable to sell, all the while knowing that they were plotting and planning Megxit. They kept this all under the radar. Meghan using her business manager, her business lawyer that she had kept even before she had met Harry. These two men followed her all the way through, and they are now the ones that are behind all of their many business ventures that are held in Delaware. Now, obviously, Megxit did not go in the way that they wanted it to. The Queen turned around and said, no, you cannot turn Sussex Royal into your own business venture, bearing in mind that they had 8.9 million followers at the time because of their time as being part of the royal family. Meghan wanted to market that and then to use it to get an income for her and Harry's future endeavours. Knowing that they were going over to America, they just used Canada briefly to try and soften the blow, to pretend, oh no, we want to stay in a Commonwealth country. No, they didn't. That was an absolute lie. As was the fact that they would take down Sussex Royal, which still to this day sits there on Instagram. Now, of course, like petulant children do, Meghan and Harry shot back at the Queen rather publicly that the Queen does not own the word royal. Well, as it turns out, she may not own the word royal, but she does actually own your titles. So they had to nip that one in the bud. And then we had Archewell, which was created, which Meghan had strangely already copyrighted her child's name before he was even born. In fact, even knowing what sex he was going to be. I mean, Meghan had known that she was going to go for Archewell for a very, very long time. I'd imagine from the moment that she found out Prince George's security name was Archie. Now, with Archewell being created, this was where more trademark problems arose for the couple that do absolutely no due diligence, but then they don't need to because they behave like entitled bulldozers. They decide that they want something, they don't care about anyone else, they try and take it because they're very important and powerful people. They are legends in their own minds. So where Archewell first ran into trouble was to do with a small business owner called Victor Soriano, who was based in the Philippines, who had already applied for Archewell Harvatera for his cosmetics and his fragrance lines. Cobblestone Lane LLC, the Delaware-based company that Harry and Meghan used to basically go after all of these trademarks, rather disastrously, if I say so myself, Well, they started throwing their weight around. They then also asked for an extension while they sorted out their paperwork. And eventually it fizzled out and it expired on the 28th of December 2020. If Mr. Soriano, of course, hadn't gone to the media and threatened to fight to the death, I'd imagine that he would have been trampled all over. Then, of course, continuing with trademarking issues, Meghan then ran into more problems when she tried to trademark archetypes. This was the name of her ill-fated podcast, whose apparent concept actually came from her head of audio, Rebecca Sananez. The United States Patent and Trademark Office said no, as another company had registered archetypes back in May 2018 for blogging and publications with regards to fitness and nutrition. 17 months, Meghan threw her weight around, or rather her lawyers did. Obviously, this was an epic fail, and not long after, Spotify dropped her. So let's move along to something a bit more current, shall we? Oh wait, it was current last year. It's not current anymore because Meghan has moved on to the next shiny new thing as she scrambles through her chaotic life of ventures. But American Riviera Orchard, alas, oh no, sorry, I've got to do that, haven't I? Alas, how we did not get to know thee. No, we did not. It was going to fail from the moment it launched because, again, no due diligence had been done. But even the parent company that was set up was called Mama Knows Best. Bearing in mind that Meghan had already had articles comparing her to trying to set up a lifestyle cookery show like Martha Stewart, well, Martha Stewart's TV series was called Martha Knows Best. Now, of course, as for RO, as it was known in short, many people nicknamed it as another rip-off. Let's look at the logo, which looks remarkably like the one that is on the gates of Buckingham Palace. Meghan was certainly trying to make sure that she gave her new logo a royal edge. The problem was she gave it too many edges, it doesn't make sense, and even the trademark office couldn't quite work out what 3 letters she actually had in that design. So let's talk about the concept of RO, right? What Meghan wanted to create. Well, it turns out there is already a brand well established, well loved by celebrities, a luxury lifestyle and wellness brand that sells honeys and jams and bath products, homewares, housewares, you name it, and they are called the Flamingo Estates. And they have been running for years. And the best thing is about this, before anybody says, oh no, you're reaching a bit, Meghan tried to go into business with them. Yes, Meghan had tried to become an active partner and an investor in the Flamingo Estates. But after hearing the terms and conditions that she wanted, which I think we can guess is an absolute takeover, they said, no, thank you, but no, thank you. So Meghan said, okay then, I'm going to be your rival. I'm going to take everything I learned from our business meetings and I'm going to take it for my own. Even when Chrissy Teigen and John Legend were interviewed on a red carpet event, they were asked about Meghan's jam. And when Chrissy remembered who they were talking about, she then let slip that even celebrities know that Meghan is in fact still copying the Flamingo Estates.
How was the jam? Oh, I was like the jam. You got one of the coveted American Riviera Orchard jams. How was it?
And it's like when I get like a honey from Flamingo Estate and it's numbered like 1 of 50, or we got like, you don't want to use it because I don't want to lose it.
Meghan is very, very good at taking other people's ideas. However, as we know with Meghan, this is not the only idea that she has lifted from other people. As many of you guys pointed out when the trailer for With Love Meghan came out, it's obvious that Meghan has been paying particular interest to a certain beautiful, talented and lovely Marchioness of Bath. Now, I know that some people will say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but I think with the amounts that Meghan does it, it seems to be unsettling more than anything. Obviously, the plagiarism, that's actually quite serious because you're stealing other people's ideas and concepts. But even with Meghan, when she imitates other people, it seems that Meghan just doesn't have a personality of her own. She reinvents herself and she creates a whole new persona, but then generally they're based on someone else that we have come across. But it is a whole different kettle of fish when you are stealing, lifting, plagiarizing other people's words, their ideas, and even their logos. The local village of Pereiras admitted that despite wanting her to change her logo, which is a total copy of their coat of arms, they do not have the sort of finances that it would take to sue her if it turned nasty. And as for As Ever, the clothing company based in New York, they had not registered their brand, which means that they may struggle to contest it if Meghan does obviously get her trademark through. I guess they presumed people wouldn't just come along and steal it. It honestly does make me wonder if Meghan, rather than not doing any due diligence, she did do her due diligence, and in fact she just thought, do you know what, I'm going to take it. I can trample all over them. As Ever in New York City, they have put out multiple posts. They've explained to their clients of what's going on and asked them to tag them in their social media posts with the two hashtags As Ever and As Ever NYC to help stop them from being buried. Because this is the problem. Meghan has created a circus now and she's brought it upon them. You only have to look at Instagram and type in As Ever. It's Meghan, 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 Meghan. But in some great news, it would seem that Meghan has the reverse effect to Catherine. Yes, Catherine has the Kate effect, where everybody buys stuff and it sells out immediately when Catherine has worn it because she looks incredible. But it would seem because Meghan is trying to screw over this company, lots of people have decided to buy their merchandise and they are selling out of all of their stock. This is amazing. I'm rooting for them as well. I hope that they become bigger and better with more investments than they've ever had before. Not to spite Meghan, but to genuinely uplift this company that Meghan selfishly is trying to squish. This was a husband and wife hobby that they managed to turn into a successful business using hard work, determination, and patience. These are all qualities that, as everybody knows, Meghan clearly lacks. She doesn't take her time on anything. Bearing in mind, one of her mantras she was flinging about when she was on the TIG was, if you don't give it 5 minutes, don't give it 5 years. She doesn't seem to give it 5 seconds. I think it's pretty obvious at this stage that Meghan has no original concepts or ideas or thoughts of her own. Many years ago, some of you will remember because it made the headlines around the world, what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. And at the time, whilst I thought it was obviously rude, given it was over a tiara from someone who is just marrying into the royal family, but some people could interpret that into Meghan is a go-getter, she's driven, she's determined, she's tenacious. But in fact, what it really means is Meghan doesn't need jam or honey to get really sticky fingers. So guys, that's it for me on this video. I will be back with you very soon where we will be talking about more royal news. Take care for now. Bye.